It's time for the Monday crossword. This is by Lin Limpel, who's a veteran crossword constructor, especially for weekdays. So, a little bit before I get into this, I wanted to explain how I'm going to solve this. So, typically, Mondays take me 3 to 4 minutes to solve on a computer. And what that looks like is me just frantically tapping around and just quickly typing things in. I usually don't even have time to fully read the clues before I sort of talk about the answers. And if I try to talk about what I'm saying, what I'm thinking as I'm typing it in, I think it would just be sort of a jumble. So I don't think there's too much value in me trying to go as quickly as possible um, on Mondays at least, because I think there's a quite some potential to have like instructive moments when solving this. So at least today I'll try doing an across only solve. So that means that I'm only going to be, when I'm solving this first, I'm only going to be looking at the across answers, the across clues, and I'm covered up all of the down. Uh, I've covered up all the down clues with a piece of paper here. So anything past this line, I can't really see. Well, I can't see at all. After I solve it, hopefully I am able to solve it while only looking at across. After I've solved it, I'll take a look at the down clues that I haven't seen and maybe sort of explain some that I think are worth talking about. So I want this one to be a bit of a more methodical and instructive solve. So let's see how I do, because I'm also quite nervous about this. This is my first time actually trying a cross only solve. So we'll see if I'm able to do it or not. All right, value. So value could be like a noun or a verb. Um, it's not very clear what it is right now, and to value could be like to cherish. It could also be like a monetary value. Um, as of right now, I'm not really sure. So I'm going to move on to the next one. Volcanic coating that buried Pompeii. So the thing that I like about this is that this gives you a lot of context. So if you, for instance, know what Pompeii is, you probably would know this. And even if you didn't, you could still get bailed out by knowing what volcanic coating typically is. In this case, that would be ash. And of course, I'm not allowed to look at the uh, down clues for this because I'm only doing a cross solve. But I will be looking for common word combinations and sometimes guessing what will be the word when I get more letters here. So a situation that precedes overtime. So overtime as in, well, you might think overtime as in work, you get paid for overtime, but typically in crosswords actually you will see overtime meaning in sports, and this only happens when you have a tie. Let's see what is over here. An overhead light question mark. So this is it's nice little question mark clue here. This means that it's a misdirect. It's not typically what you would think is an overhead light, um, but it requires you to sort of rethink what these words mean. In this case, overhead light, I'm fairly certain means halo, because a halo is a ring of light that is literally over your head. So in a way, it's an overhead light, but not in the way that we typically talk about it. Okay, listlessness. I have a feeling that I know what this word is, and it's a bit of a crosswordese thing. I think it's ennui. Um, it just means like a general sense of boredom. It could also mean maybe this answer is angst, like a teenage sense of despair or like just doneness with the world. I'm not sure, but I think that it would be ennui. Um, I could be wrong, but it's also just a bit of experience. Ventilated, I think that would be aired. Um, let's see, actor Reeves who plays John Wick. Okay, so I do know this. This is Keanu. I'm typically not very good with proper nouns and trivia kind of things. So clothing. Um, clothing is, well, shirts, pants. Um, is there any other kind of word that means clothing? I guess like garments. It's hard to say. I actually don't know if this is an S at the end here because I can't really see what letter combinations would work here with O blank DS. But let's see what else there is. Okay. I'm just skipping ahead here because I do see, like, it catches my eye, these fill in the blanks. And in this case, I know this is op-eds, which are opposite editorials, so newspaper pieces. And this one over here, this is also fill in the blank one at a time. Let's see, I think, okay, this one, write-ins. Some unlikely election winners, so they're not on the ballot, but you write them in. And this one, ooh, I don't know that one, so I'll come back to it. Poet Dickinson is Emily Dickinson. And this one, okay, gridiron success. So in this case, gridiron as in gridiron football. So this is a touchdown. And let's see what the theme is. So this is the revealer, and these are all the theme answers. So this should tell me a clue about what's happening here. So when read as two words, the conclusion to the sequence formed by the starts of these four answers. So when read as two words, the two words are touch down. The conclusion to the sequence of, okay, so maybe it's something like you have two word phrases in all of these spaces, and then maybe the first word here is space, and then over here is like sky or something, and then I don't know, at some point you get to earth, right? So you like sort of touch down. I'm not really sure what this down exactly is, but it's some kind of sequence of descending things that eventually reaches down, whatever that might mean. So relating to a son or a daughter, I mean, I don't know if this would be a suitable word for a Monday typically, but I mean, filial is what comes to mind. But I might be wrong about that. We'll just have to see. So the bug killer that goes smack. Okay, there are a lot of clues here. So this means that it's a sort of thing that makes noise, probably hitting something. So what I think it is a fly swatter. Okay, now I see this, blank FFE blank blank. I'm pretty sure this is like effect or effect, something like that. So backpackers shelters. I know there's an S here. I wonder what this is. To wane is to sort of decrease. So if you have like a wax and wane sort of situation, wax means to grow. There's a similar thing. Well, this word shows up all the time. That's why I know this. When you say ebb and flow, to ebb means you sort of flow back, sort of like the tide, and then to flow is to sort of flow forward. So I think that's what it means. And then backpackers shelters. I'm not really sure what it is here, but I'm fairly certain that's a C. And then if this is something like blimey, or maybe this is like byline, then that make a lot of sense. Well, lumps of coal for a snowman. Well, typically they're the eyes. So, okay, now I see that actually blimey does look like it's the only word that fits here. Byline, sort of like the author's credit in a newspaper. Then what is this? I suppose this is not an English word. I mean, it's typical that you would get some very common translations. So this might be something like in French. So I would believe this. If you make this tense, that is a backpacker's shelter, and then all of these words seem to make sense. Effect is kind of the odd one out, but I'll allow it. I think it's what the constructor intended. Okay, then Fanny blank, central figure, and I still don't know that one. Mark Twain for Samuel Langhorne Clemens. So who is Mark Twain in relation to Samuel Clemens? Oh, I know this. Mark Twain is his pen name. So Samuel Clemens is his actual name, and then he goes by Mark Twain for his books. Losing General Appomattox. Okay, I do know this one. This is General Lee. So this is during the Civil War. And I believe that the winning commander was General or Commander Meade. So he's the namesake of Fort Meade, one of those naval bases, I believe. So Burr, who dueled with Hamilton. There's a lot of, I guess the sort of trivia knowledge is a bit gentler on Monday. So if you knew, like, if you watched like Hamilton the musical, you would know this. Aaron Burr dueled with Hamilton. I mean, when you have harder crosswords, you typically have a bit nastier trivia. It's not intentional, but usually the grids are a bit harder to fill, so you would have maybe some you'd have some hard words in there, and typically like names that people haven't really heard of. Aristocrat. Elite. I would think of something like like if you're an aristocrat, then you are an elite in society. So I'll just leave it there. It does seem to be like very crossword friendly. It has all these very common letters, so I think it might be right. To reside is to live in, but that doesn't fit. Reside is to inhabit. Is to, well, I don't know. I'll go back to it. Lawyer or a lawyer's advice. Come back to that one too. Advantageous quality. My guess is that this is asset. Like you have a certain asset, like a certain gift. Also very common crossword letters. That's why I think it's that. Sloppy gunk. Goo? It could be. There are not many words that fit this now. It could be ugly. And there is also a fruit that's named ugly, spelled with an I at the end. It's not very common, but, well, it is common in crosswords, and people make a lot of puns with it. Clothing and fruit peeling gadget. I think this is a parer. So like you pare fruit. So maybe you might have a paring knife. Or you might have like a peeler kind of thing. So next, what we have clothing. We still have this one. I think maybe it's a good time to take a look at these long answers, see if I can get anything out of these. I also am trying to keep in mind all of these crossings that I have here, which I can't see in this solve, but I can guess that this would be a ni, because I don't see any other letter that could fit here. Enjoy a vacation day. Then what else could this be? This could be Rome. I'm pretty sure that's the only kind of relatively common letter that you might have here. So I think it's an R here. And then what would be that or these? Stowaways? That's the only kind of word that I can see that would fit there. I mean, maybe I can... okay. Now I know what this is. This is dwell. Okay, so that did actually help. So there's a W here. That means that this letter is typically an S or a vowel, but in rare cases, this actually is a D there. If I had known this DW combination, maybe I knew the D from this letter. That would have given it away a bit more. But these are things that I like to keep in mind. And so I do think that this has to be a U here. Whether or not that's an I or a Y, I think that's a U there. And what else is this? Oh, it's okay. I'm just going to go to some short answers here. So understand is to see. And you always see these kind of very common letters sort of at the bottom corner, the bottom or the right side of the grid, because all these words tend to use these letters. I think this PE blank USE is peruse. I think this is Eric. And T blank ONE. Am I missing something? I feel like that should be something. Fanny something. Or is it? It's not a fly swatter? Wait, what else is it? Write-ins. Yeah. Or am I misremembering that? Home with a dome is, I believe that's a TP. Typically they do have TPs. And then to relinquished is ceded, I think. Ooh, is this not TP? I think it is seated here. And then I think this is chic. So if that's chic, then what would this be? Okay. Oh, of course. That's not a teepee, but it's an igloo. And then this would be, I'm guessing this is edge. Fanny. What word goes here? This is fly swatter touchdown in C. Let's see. Is it Fanny? Well, I'm guessing it's going to be some kind of it's not going to be a real word. It's not going to be like price, because if it were price, then they wouldn't have gone with such a obscure reference, especially for Monday, because Monday typically want to have all very common knowledge. So it's not like price. It's not like I think it's Bryce. So because that's T-bone. So it's not a word, but it is a letter than a bone. So that's fair. Yes, T-bone, Bryce. What else is there here? Wrestler turned actor with a trademark do. I think this is Mr. T. And otherwise, I'll be honest, I don't know much at all about Mr. T. I think he was in the A-Team. I also have no idea what these shows are. But apparently he was a wrestler, then he became an actor. And I kind of only know him because I've seen his name so much in crosswords. But there you go. A lawyer or a lawyer's advice. Okay, now I understand this. So it is a word that means a lawyer, and it could also mean what a lawyer's advice is. And in this case, it's counsel. So to be like to go to trial with counsel means like you have a lawyer, and they give counsel. So this here catches my eye. We have MC, which is not very common, but I've seen this exact entry before. So this is the MCAT for medical school. And enjoy a vacation day is, okay, I think this is take, because all of these are relatively common. Take off, from work. There it is. Okay. Then what is, okay, these are, I don't know what, EFL? Maybe it's not elite, because all of these others look very convincing. Oral, Rome, knee, flat, fetal, these are all real words. But blank FL makes me think that this would actually be an N for NFL. So what would this be? NA? The blank G, blank R. There are only a few words that fit there. You have agar, as in like the sort of sticky sort of thickener for soups. But you also have something like ager, which would only really work if you had a golden ager or like a screen ager. So it's a sort of a suffix to words, but it shows up a lot in crosswords. So this could be an NA or it could be an NE. And then what could this be? Well, this could be an E, because you have Ewan, which is a somewhat common name. And then you have Swan. But I'll have to go back and see what that is later. So value and this thing. A meeting spot for a company's overseers. No, I didn't have an answer for this, but I was looking also at what the theme was saying, and I was sort of trying to understand what all of these what these theme answers were saying, and it's pretty clear now that we have take off, and then here we have fly. So this is to do with, you have sort of like from a plane. So I think before takeoff and fly, you would have taxi. So it makes me think this is taxi. And taxi something. I don't know what this title is. But now that I see this IG blank R, the only letter I can see going here actually is an O. So you would have it Igor, as in like Igor Stravinsky, who was a composer. And okay, so now I understand this. Aristocrat is noble. Noble, not it's not Nobel, but it's noble. So Ewan, that makes sense. That's a name. Noble, that makes sense. Let's see. This PA blank blank OL man, makes me think that it's a patrolman. What else is here? We have this. I think this makes it arrive, and because of that V, I think this is the taxi driver. Now, what else is this? Oh, okay. So now I understand this. So we have clothing, which is attire. I'm just looking at what other words we have. Yeah, these are all real words. And adobo, I think is well, it comes from Spanish. I think it means like some kind of brick, or actually I don't really know, but I'll take a look at it later. So all of these are real. That makes that gives me confidence that this is right. Okay, so we have fly, takeoff, taxi, and then sort of before here, I think you would have to board, because before you taxi, you would board. So all of these are verbs. So it makes me think that it's not like boarding. I think it would just be bored, because these are all verbs. So to keep the theme consistent, people like to just have the same verb tense, same part of speech. So meeting spot for a company's overseers. So it is board something. And then what is this? I think this has to be Sioux. It's one of those Native American tribes. This is atonal, like as an atonal music. Okay, boardroom. And of course that makes very common words here as well. So that I think that's right. Then to value. Okay. I didn't think this was gonna be so challenging, this last value thing here. But let's just see what I might be able to get here. So to value, or it's a noun or a verb. And I'm also looking at what words I'm forming here. So this could be RNA, it could be DNA. It could also be a lot of other things actually, like it could be ANA, that's a name, and it's also a Japanese air carrier. What else is there? This could be Turk, it could be lurk. That could be a lot of things. But this, okay, so blank EB. Deb, web. Oh, okay, yes, it is web, because something's value is something's worth. Okay, nice. I'm actually really happy with that. That was actually, I think, the first time I was able to do a cross only solve. I had to be a bit methodical about that, and I do think I was a bit lucky with getting that W there, because I really don't know how long that would have taken me. But I thought that was a really solid, and all of these words are stuff that I would say is very suitable for a Monday. All of this makes sense very much. Touchdown. I also appreciate how there are multiple meanings of touchdown. So you would have touchdown as in sports and touchdown as in with planes. So it's always nice to have a revealer that's not super literal in the way that the theme actually works. With that said, I want to look at what the down answers were, and just go through some of them. So Yoko Ono is someone who's always shows up at some point, because of course Ono is a very common, made up of very common letters, and typically people will use names that are heavy in vowels, especially someone who is as well known as Yoko, or historically well known as Yoko Ono. These are all, yeah, Crazy Horse's people. So Crazy Horse is an example of someone from the Sioux tribe. And I just wonder if there are anything else that might be worth talking about. So police officer who monitors an assigned area, patrolman, yeah. To label as G or R. Oh, okay, so this is talking about like ratings for movies. Exam for a doctor to be, normally I think you would see for abbreviations, you would see like a little symbol that says abbreviation at the end. But maybe because MCAT is only ever really referred to as MCAT, in the same way that like SAT is only ever SAT and not like in full its name. I think it's in some cases it's you will expect to see abbreviations that aren't uh, necessarily indicated as abbreviation in the clue. Composer Stravinsky, that's like I thought Igor Stravinsky. Orca Patriot Games, and of course Patriot has to be capitalized. So typically in very tricky clues, um, they like to hide the fact that it's capitalized by putting Patriot at the beginning of the clue, so that it looks like it could just be like any Patriot or it could be like the proper noun. And that's always something you have to look out for when you get to more difficult puzzles. So Ewan McGregor, I've definitely heard of this guy, but I actually can't say I really know who this person is. Off key in a way is flat, yeah, or it could be sharp, but in a way tells you it's one or the other. Yikes is blimey. Um, I didn't know this. Overly refined is effete. It's I know that there's a word affected, like to be overly refined in almost a snobbish way, but I didn't know that this was actually an English word. Maybe it's borrowed from like French or something. But I'll take a look at it later. Rocks, Carmen, or Clapton, yeah, both are named Eric. Um, Tis better to have loved and lost. Yeah, if this was a fill in the blank that I had seen, I would also have gone for this straight away. I do find that fill in the blanks are often quite nice to get because they're pretty unambiguous. Agree silently is to nod. Yeah, I really enjoyed that. Hopefully, this was instructive. Yeah, that's it.